Broke the internet. Up first is this cheerleader who pooped while she was performing a stunt. This picture broke the internet and went viral everywhere. But surprisingly enough, it was actually...
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scary and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. I just want to thank all my supporters, man. Just coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Comment it down below. I really appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Seek the truth.
Imagine dropping off your toddler to daycare, and when you go to pick them up, they are no longer alive, and you realize that this was no accident. This is 3-year-old Conrad Ashcraft, a nonverbal autistic child who attended Poppy's Playhouse Daycare in Park Hills, Missouri. And on Friday, May 16th, his mother went to go pick him up like any other day. She was told he was taking his midday nap, and when she got there, he was face down on the floor, covered by a weighted blanket. But when she went to turn him around, he was cold, stiff, and no longer breathing, and his skin color was a dark purple, indicating he was already deceased for several hours. The family later found out that there's an employee at that daycare known for holding children down when they don't want to go to sleep. And if that's not bad enough, other kids at the daycare told their parents that Conrad was in trouble that day for not wanting to go to sleep, and that staff workers would sit on him and hold him down with his legs until he stopped moving. This is the owner of the daycare, Spring Gray, who is known to downplay concerns of the parents and justify the actions of her workers. There has been no criminal charges, and the daycare has since reopened. Rest in peace to Conrad. Let me know what you guys think, and as the investigation continues, I'll keep you guys updated.
These are scary games to play in real life, part 1. This game is called the Picture Game, and it's a paranormal game that allows you to take pictures of ghosts. To play the game, you will need at least 2 people and a phone with a flash. Then find an empty room and sit directly across from each other. Then turn off the lights and hold hands and say, "I trust you," to each other. Now say, "The door is open, please come in," 3 times at the same time. Now open your eyes. Whatever wanted to come into the room is now in there. Now each of you grab your phone and take a picture of each other while saying, "I caught you." Now do this 3 times each. Now both of you close your eyes again and say, "It's time to go home." Turn on the lights and then look at the photos you guys took of each other. One of you would then see a ghost standing behind you, and the other one won't, but the person that has the ghost behind them will experience paranormal activity for at least a week. Now, the ghost won't harm you at all, but it would do its best to completely terrify you. So, are you playing this game? Because I'm definitely not.
This boy was shot by an officer while he ate McDonald's in his car. On October 2nd at 10:45 p.m., a police officer named James Brennan approached a vehicle that was parked at a McDonald's in San Antonio. The officer believed that the car belonged to the person who fled from him the night before during a traffic stop.
I got a vehicle over here that fled from me the other day from the parking lot.
See how this goes down.
Get out of the car.
So, did you see how the officer opened Eric's car door without any heads up at all? I think anyone would panic in that moment. So when he opened the door, Eric reversed his car, hitting the officer with his car door. So then the officer proceeds to open fire on Eric as he drives away. By the way, you can find this video on YouTube. Eric was unarmed but was shot multiple times and was on life support. The police chief did say that James' actions were unjustified and that there is a policy that prohibits officers from shooting at parked or moving vehicles except if their life or someone else's life is in immediate danger. I just don't think it was necessary to do all that, but James was arrested and charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault.
He needs to learn control, man. I mean, you saw the video. He just opened up, didn't even knock on it, just opened up the door. And like I said, anybody react like that, like what? Like, why are you opening up my door? Then try to drive off and you saw what happened, man. That's a shame. It's flashing. Yeah, I would not be there. There's some brave souls out there right now. I don't know what they're doing.
Somebody's watching me. It's my anxiety.
If anything, that should make you less afraid of sharks. It's like people being afraid of being judged at the gym until you go and realize that everyone's just worried about themselves. You should be worried about Satan's goldfish. The devil's guppy's built like a practical joke from nature in the year 2025. Poseidon's punishment is armed with a powerful neurotoxin that shuts your body down from the inside, delivered through several spines that can easily pierce through shoes. And if you don't seek medical attention fast enough, the poison will destroy tissues in the body, causing uncontrollable shaking, twitching, and eventually full-blown paralysis. The endgame is it getting harder and harder to breathe until you eventually black out and flatline. That happened before you get back on land and the ocean becomes an accomplice. Survivors have compared the pain of being swung as similar to being swung on by a sledgehammer. Repeatedly. But the real problem with this Antichrist kidney stone is the stonefish looks like a stone, making it almost impossible for you to see it first. Which means the sentient sea mime goes out of its way to hide from sight just to punish your lack of perception. Now that's actual gaslight, and the harder you step, the more poison gets pumped into you. The real effery about this fish is outside of humans, nothing in the ocean runs the risk of stepping on this fish. It's a gift-wrapped flaming turd in a brown paper bag addressed only to humanity. Fun fact, if this was cartoon Steve Irwin, then a stonefish was nearly his stingray. But at least stingrays are anxiety placemats with a trigger. I will not be defending this deep sea hemorrhoid until I can find all four in this picture. I'm still looking. Also, they can survive 24 hours out of water, the more you know.
Here are some stories about money that will change the way you see the world. There was a man from New Jersey who spent $5 on orange juice, but his wife made him return it because it was half price somewhere else. With the refunded money, he bought 2 lottery tickets and won $315 million. This man in India spent approximately $240,000 on a 22 karat gold shirt made from 14,000 pieces of gold. An Australian man once listed the entire country of New Zealand for sale on eBay. The bidding hit $3,000 before it got shut down. There was a man who spent $15,000 on a hyper-realistic dog costume so he could live as a border collie. The creator of Ethereum was approached by Google for a job offer that paid an intern-level salary after he was already a crypto millionaire. A man bought the domain name pizza.com for $20 and then later sold it for $2.6 million. A man bought a storage unit for $500 and found $7.5 million in cash hidden inside. Man, some people are just so freaking lucky.
Horror games based on true events. Part 1. Granny. Granny's a video game where you're trapped inside of a house. You have 5 to 6 days to figure out these puzzles and get your way out. The game is loosely based off of the Granny Ripper, who documented her unalivings, dating 20 years back. No one truly knows how many people she did unalive, but let's just say it was a lot.
I've seen some popular YouTubers play that game. Should I check it out?
She stabbed her boyfriend in the eye with needles because he was looking at other women. So this happened in Florida, where 44-year-old Sandra Jimenez lost it after her and her boyfriend of 8 years were arguing about him looking at other women. But on this specific Saturday night, when the couple arrived home, Sandra attacked him when he went to lay down. She allegedly jumped on top of him with 2 syringes in her hand and jabbed him in the eye. And apparently these needles were meant to vaccinate their dogs against rabies. Sandra was then found sleeping in her car and was arrested and charged with felony aggravated battery. Can we start normalizing breaking up with her partners instead of trying to kill them?
Morbid facts that will give you nightmares. When a prisoner is electrocuted in an electric chair, they can feel absolutely everything. They are fully aware that their body is being fried in real time, and one prisoner that survived said he actually smelled and tasted like cold peanut butter. Human corpses decompose 4 times faster in water than underground, and 8 times faster if left in the open air. It takes around 359 humans to have enough iron to forge a sword from their blood. Just about 3,000 people go missing every single year in the US. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977 in France. That was exactly the same year that the first Star Wars movie came out.
Dang, now that's one. He missed peak cinema. That's crazy to think about. What's in this room? saw something coming through that window. This is bad now. Oh, hell.
Horror games that were based on real people.
The Evil Nun. The Evil Nun is based off of a Greek woman named Marina Soulakio II, or Mother Asputin. She was a Greek Old Calendarist Eastern Orthodox abbess and serial killer who was found guilty of numerous counts of murder, fraud, and other crimes. She had a kill count of about 177 people. She was the leader of a terrifying cult that looked for rich women, looking for ways to be in touch with the Lord and lured them in. She'd torture them out of everything they had. Then she ended them. She owned 300 houses in Greece alone. When the police were finally notified by a victim's daughter, they raided her monastery and found malnourished old women chained inside in a tuberculosis-infested basement. She was literally an evil nun. See the gameplay, which displays her crime.
Oh, she got the sledgehammer. What the? Did she just slap you and you fell out?
What character should I talk about next?
The supposed time traveler from 2671 has warned us again about these following dates. Make sure to favorite this video so we can keep track of these dates and find out if they were right. Up first, we have January 16th, starting 2023 off strong. The first human's DNA is genetically enhanced and manipulated, allowing the human to live longer, increase their strength, and produce more intelligent descendants. And this will then bring us to 2054, where every human will be genetically modified, including you. Next up, we have 2024. Donald Trump will get elected as president, beating Kamala Harris by 67%. The time traveler says that throughout the next decade, massive storms known as world breakers will happen all across the world. And finally, in 2029, alien creatures known as the Xenu will visit Earth. Do you think any of these will actually come true? Yo, Elon!
We know which one came true. Living in it right now.
Some games are meant to be fun, but this one was never meant to be played. This game is called The Midnight Game. It's about summoning something that you cannot uninvite. The ritual starts at exactly midnight. You write your full name on a piece of paper, prick your finger, and let the red liquid drop. By red liquid, you know what I mean. You then place it at your door and knock 22 times. The final knock must strike while the clock turns at 12. Congratulations, you have just invited the Midnight Man to your home. Your only task is to survive till 3:33 a.m. Keep a candle lit with you. If it blows out, he's there. You have about 10 seconds to relight your candle. Some people say you feel chills and hear a whisper. You feel like someone is breathing down your neck, but whatever you do, do not look at him. If you fail, the Midnight Man shows you your worst fear. And some people say that you cannot wake up. So are you brave enough to play and smart enough to survive? Let me know in the comments if you've ever played this game, if you plan to, or if you're simply just here to know what's up.
Let me tell you some crazy history you didn't learn in school. George Iser won 6 Olympic gold medals in 1904 with a wooden leg in one day. This is a record he still holds today, and it wasn't even until 2008 when another person competed with an artificial leg. This was actually a sailor's formal request for a leave of absence, and it says, "My wife is planning on getting pregnant this weekend, and I would sure like to be there when it happens." Napoleon was once attacked by a horde of bunnies. This was during a hunting trip when his men bought too many and released them all at once. President Andrew Jackson taught his parrot to swear, and he had to be removed from Jackson's funeral. This is what a men's beauty contest looked like in Central Europe in the early 1900s. Raffaello Monti was an Italian sculptor who carved veils from marble that literally looked transparent. Stores created layaway during the Great Depression, and it was popular until credit cards became a thing in the 1980s.
These are facts that will make your skin crawl, part 1. Up first, did you know that women can actually give birth after death? It's extremely rare, but it's called coffin birth. Up next, everybody has definitely heard of the 5-second rule and probably applied it in your life at least once. But did you know in those 5 seconds, minor insects can still crawl on your food after you drop it on the floor, pick it up, and then eat it? Up next, if a black cat looks at you and then suddenly runs away, It means that something unusual is about to happen to you. So if this happened to you recently, then I recommend just staying in your room and not leaving. Finally, did you know that a cockroach can live 9 days without its head before it starves to death? This is absolutely crazy. And as weird as this sounds, I have to see it to believe it.
Me too. I gotta see that last cockroach fact, man.
Nobody can convince me that the platypus is not a science experiment. It's like a duck, beaver, otter hybrid. It's also a mammal that lays eggs. It's also venomous, which is weird for a mammal, and its venom is found in its back legs. It just kicks you to envenomate you. It also doesn't have teeth, so it uses rocks to chew up its food. And I don't know where its food goes, because it also doesn't have a stomach. It also doesn't have nipples, but it gives off milk, just kind of leaks out of its armpits. It's also an aquatic creature that doesn't have senses in water. It goes blind and deaf when it jumps in water. But that's cool because it can connect to the electromagnetic field. It can sense electrical pulses in other creatures' bodies. What?
Compare the platypus, bro. He has some weird stats, man. Flashing out. What the hell? I don't see nothing on that road.
Horrifying facts you haven't knew.
In 1988, Iranian man Mehran Karimi Nasseri was traveling to the UK with his briefcase containing essential refugee documents was stolen from him at a Paris train station. Unable to prove his identity to British immigration officials, Nasseri was returned to France and found himself completely stranded in Terminal 1 of Paris's main airport. He remained there for an astonishing 18 years, during which he became a fixture in the terminal, residing on a red bench surrounded by his belongings, writing in his diary and engaging with airport staff and travelers. In 2006, Nasseri was hospitalized, finally ending his long stay at the airport. He later lived in a Paris shelter, before returning to the airport in 2022, where he would spend his final days, before dying of a heart attack in the same terminal. His unique situation inspired several works, most notably the 2004 film The Terminal, directed by Steven Spielberg and starring Tom Hanks. How rare is your body? First, only 11% of people have naturally curly hair. So if you fall into any of these groups, consider yourself rare. Now, comment on which ones you have. Second, less than 3% of people have an X on their palms, which is considered a sign of strong character. Third, only about 33% of people can actually whistle, and unfortunately, I'm not one of them. Fourth, 14% of people don't have a palmaris longus muscle. This is the muscle that stands out when you flex your hand like this. Fifth, only 16% of people can produce a high-pitched noise with their jaw. They can control a muscle that most people can't, and it creates a loud sound. Sixth, 33% of people have astigmatism. This makes lights appear blurry and distorted, like in this photo. Seventh, less than 6% of people can vibrate their eyes and shake them rapidly back and forth. And do you have any of these characteristics? Or do you know someone who has any? And which of these characteristics do you think is the rarest?
Here are some pictures that broke the internet. Up first is this cheerleader who pooped while she was performing a stunt. This picture broke the internet and went viral everywhere. But surprisingly enough, it was actually fake and somebody photoshopped it. Next is this mugshot of a man that had women going crazy. And the photo went so viral that when he got out of prison, he got a full-time modeling job. Next is this picture of a dress. People either see white and gold or black and blue, and people can't tell the actual color of this dress. Now the question becomes, what colors do you see?
What the heck? Something in this hotel room? That has to be. That's the only reason why you're running in that bathroom. Yup, we see that.
You're totally right. With the big cup, I gotta do a lot more than 6 facts. So, fun facts until the Orbeez overflow. If you met every person on Earth for just 1 second, it would take you 250 years to meet everyone. Without saliva, you cannot taste your food. 8% of people have an extra rib. The sentence, "wow, you are cool," is taken as sarcasm 95% of the time. You would have to scream for 8.5 years to produce enough energy to heat a cup of tea. Chocolate contains phenylethylamine, which is the same chemical your brain releases when you fall in love. It's actually possible to die of a broken heart. Bananas are a natural sleep aid considering they contain melatonin. Your heart pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood a day. Most lipstick contains fish scales. And it looks like I'm out of time. Follow for more fun facts.
Breaking news, 5 arrests have been made in the death of actor Matthew Perry, including 2 doctors, his assistant, and the ketamine queen. Perry revealed his decades-long struggle with addiction in his 2022 memoir, Friends, Lover, and the Big Terrible Thing, and how he was prescribed Vicodin after a jet ski accident on a film set in 1997. Eventually, Perry was taking up to 55 pills per day. In 2023, Perry was receiving ketamine infusions for anxiety and depression, but soon slipped back into his addiction and started getting it illegally as well. And that's when 2 medical doctors started providing him the drug off the record. One of the doctors that's been arrested wrote, quote, "I wonder how much this moron will pay, and let's find out." For a vial that cost them $12, they were charging Perry thousands of dollars. Perry eventually sought out a new source because of these expenses, one of them being Jasmine Sangha, known as the Ketamine Queen, who's also been charged in connection with another man's overdose back in 2019. On October 23rd of last year, Perry was found face down in his hot tub. He died as a result of acute effects of ketamine and drowning. Shortly after this, the defendants tried to cover up their involvement by deleting text messages and apparently forging medical records. Authorities say the ketamine queen sold the drug to Perry's assistant, Kenneth Iwamasa, who injected Perry the day he died, and the syringe was provided by Dr. P, who sold drugs to Perry in the past. 2 defendants, including Perry's assistant, have pleaded guilty to charges already, and a 3rd has agreed to plead guilty. Dr. P and the ketamine queen could face life in prison.
This is a true horrifying story about the most dangerous game to play. And no, it is not the Ouija board. This game is called the Corners game. People sent me a podcast video of 2 guys explaining how it's done. I've heard of this game a while ago, but since people are talking about it now, I'd love to step in. I genuinely warn you from playing this game, because it is extremely dangerous whether it was done right or wrong, and it does involve summoning an evil presence. Even if I didn't explain to you guys how it's done, you guys are probably gonna Google it either ways. The Corners game is a summoning ritual. In Islam, it is equivalent to practicing black magic. You need 4 participants. No additional players are allowed in the room. A room with 4 corners. No more, no less. All the lights in the room must be switched off. All players must enter the room one by one, speaking their name out loud 3 times. One principal is appointed as the speaker. The speaker stays in the middle of the room, and the remaining 3 players must pick a corner each and face the wall. The door should be shut, and when everyone is inside, no one is allowed to speak. When everyone is in position, the speaker counts to 3, and on 3, all participants must rotate clockwise to the next corner. Now, there are 4 other procedures that I don't wish to explain further. But throughout the game, remember, there's always one empty corner. Now, people say that one of the principals may disappear, but one thing for sure, an entity in the shape of a figure will appear in one of the corners. There is an emergency procedure of calling your name backwards, but I don't know if that will avoid getting you injured. A group of guys from Japan have played this game. No one disappeared in thin air after the game was done. However, one of the players never seemed the same after playing this game. During their 3rd rotation, they saw a figure move in one of the empty corners. The figure is a jinn, and jinns feed off from empty corners. That is what we know of them in Islam. In households, jinns camp in corners, ceilings, or even toilets. The player that is in most fear will be possessed. And the player that was possessed from playing this game passed away a couple of years later. They were all young men in their late 20s. Sometimes dangerous rituals are commercially sold as games, such as the Ouija board. But they are just dangerous portals. You are literally creating a portal from the jinn world to your own room by playing such games. I didn't even explain how the game is done. If you Google the rest of the procedures, that's your responsibility. Stay away.
That's why I don't play games like the Ouija board. I don't think I'll never do that. Like he says, that's like you just open a portal, man. For bad spirits, bad energy. That's a no-no. What's in that room? The hell, he's Magneto now?
She was live streaming when someone took her life.
Ya viene.
23-year-old Valeria Marquez was a beauty influencer and she owned her own beauty salon in Zapopan, Mexico. Just a couple of days ago, on May 13th, Valeria was out doing a medical procedure when her employee Erica spoke with her to tell her that someone had stopped by the salon to deliver her something. They weren't able to deliver it because they wanted confirmation that Valeria had received it. At this point, Valeria is confused because she wasn't expecting a package, but she just heads to the salon anyways. Erica then tells her that's fine because the guy that was delivering the package was going to be back in an hour. Once Valeria is back at the salon, she hops on her live. As she's on live, she starts saying how she's very uncomfortable and has this weird feeling, and then starts asking what the guy looked like and what he was driving. Weirdly enough, during the live, she had also said, "Oh my god, what if this person is going to try and take my life?" half serious and half joking. She's already starting to feel suspicious about this whole delivery. Valeria then decides she's just going to leave and doesn't want to wait around anymore, but her friend Viviana was also watching her live and she texts her saying, "Please stay because I want to see your reaction when you get this delivery." Her friend then sends her a Starbucks and a stuffed animal, and at this point Valeria seems more at ease. Moments later, Valeria is looking towards the front door and says, "Oh, here he comes." A man approaches her and says Valeria, and then she mutes the live. Seconds later, that man shoots her 1 time at the chest and 2 times in the head. She then drops forward and her head hits the table. Valeria's phone is then picked up by a woman, and many are speculating that this person is Erica, but we are not 100% sure yet, and when she looks at the phone, she has no reaction whatsoever and she ends the live. Since this just happened this week, there is a full investigation going on who could have done this to Valeria. Now, authorities may have a suspect, and this suspect is a man that goes by the name LRR. Allegedly, that man and Valeria were romantically involved for several months, and he is said to be a very dangerous person. Apparently, he didn't like when Valeria would go live and receive gifts from her followers, so this was his gift to her. As of right now, nothing has been confirmed or denied. This is all just speculation that's going on right now. Rest in peace to Valeria. Hopefully she gets the justice that she deserves, and let me know what you guys think about this.
Smoking. He then gave his wife the keys and only she could open it during meals. The man's name is Ibrahim Yücel. He is a Turkish man. He was smoking 2 packs daily for 26 years and decided he wanted to stop one day. So he built a homemade cage out of copper. In my opinion, this thing looks like a torture device. And he didn't just wear this at home. He wore this outside, going to work, running his errands. He was dedicated to stop smoking. He started doing this in 2013, and I believe he is still doing this to this day. The only thing he could get through the cage was a straw from a bottle of water and maybe some crackers. He designed it in a way that you couldn't even sneak a cigarette inside there. He definitely knew he would be having withdrawals and planned this accordingly. Down here is a picture of his wife unlocking the cage for him, and over here is more of a close-up photo of the cage. And then here's a picture of him with the cage off right here. He's talking on the phone. I'm assuming he's having a meal and he's just chatting away. But honestly, props to him. If it works, it works. I'm not sure if I have any followers from Turkey, but if I do, let me know if you've seen this guy around. And let me know what you think about this story.
Weird facts.
Have you seen that before?
If you're coughing uncontrollably, just raise your hands above your shoulder and it will stop. Did you know that TikTok doesn't let you type Area 51? When crossing the street at night, turn on your phone's flashlight and point it toward oncoming traffic. If you think you're being followed, turn right 4 times, since you'll get to the same place they shouldn't be following you anymore. If they do, you might be in trouble. Don't walk down the stairs with hands in your pockets. If you type your big forehead, you get a warning. Blue color attracts mosquitoes and 2 times more than any other. Strawberries can also be white and yellow. Some even can taste like pineapples. You can't unalive yourself by holding your breath. If you search these coordinates on Google Maps, you will find a man dragging a body. Follow for more.
Really?
Nobody in the entire world can visit this island. Okay, so majority of Americans don't know about the Forbidden Island in Hawaii that is owned by one single family and nobody could visit. The island is called Niihau, and it's extremely different from anything else in the United States. There is only a population of 70 people, and they have no access to paved roads, telephone service, no running water, and the majority of the island lives off welfare checks from the US government. And with such harsh living conditions, it makes you wonder why anybody would even live on this island. And the real question is, if there's nothing to hide here, why can't anybody visit? Well, this rule that doesn't allow any outsiders onto the island was actually written into the agreement by the natives when they sold it to the Robinson family, all the way back in 1864.
Way back.
The Robinson family bought the island for $10,000 in gold, which is $325,000 today. And the crazy thing is that this family still owns the island. The Robinsons are also very focused on preserving the Hawaiian culture on this island that the natives did, so they go to church every Sunday, banned long hair for men, and kept the official Hawaiian language. But my whole opinion on this island is that if nobody can visit there and there's only 70 people on it, there's gotta be some crazy stuff going on there, right? There's just no way these 70 people are just completely normal living on this isolated island that nobody could visit. Let me know your thoughts on this, and also let me know if you've ever heard of this.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There's a 1 in 3 chance police will never identify your killer if you were murdered in the United States. If the sun exploded now, you wouldn't know about it for another 8 minutes. 20% of children report hearing voices. There are 40 supervolcanoes around the world capable of claiming 1 billion lives. And we are about 24,000 years overdue for an eruption. The air you breathe in train stations is 15% human skin. There are over 200 dead bodies on top of Mount Everest, because retrieving them is such a risk. They serve as markers for other hikers. When you die, your house cat is going to want to eat you. Speaking of pets, dogs like squeaky toys because they mimic the screams of their prey. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 2.
I know why my dog loves the squeaky toy so much. I never knew that. Be careful when you buy your squeaky toys for your dogs now.
Insane truths to now.
Morbid facts about Mike Tyson, Part 2. While visiting a zoo in the late 1980s, Tyson noticed an alpha silverback gorilla bullying all the others. He offered the zookeeper 10 grand to open the gorilla cage so that he could go in there and smash that silverback snot box. Luckily for the gorilla, the worker declined the offer. Here's a 1997 photo of Las Vegas police facing Mike Tyson after he'd just bitten off the ear of Evander Holyfield. Tyson claimed he was in a primal blacked out state and literally wanted to kill his opponent. Mike had 6 biological children, but his little girl Exodus tragically died when she was only 4 years old. In 2009, Exodus was playing on a treadmill when she accidentally died from strangulation after falling and catching her neck on a power cord. 3 years after signing with Don King, Tyson didn't even know that he had a fan club. When he finally went there, he found a letter from a woman asking if Tyson could call her dying little boy. Tyson immediately called, hung up, cursed out Don King, then started to cry. He said that the call was 1 year too late.
If you were someone that...
Man, those freaking facts about Mike Tyson. He went through a lot in his life, man. Because you guys know what happened between that Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. How some people said they kind of didn't live up to the hype, but I guess he did what he needed to do, man. I guess to get that money.
You know, has small children, please watch this video until the end because it could save their life. Basically, Bobby baby pillows are being recalled after suffocating 8 children to their end. What happened was that these 8 children were laid down to sleep on these pillows and woke up lifeless. The recall includes the original, preferred, and Pottery Barn Kids Bobby baby pillows, and if you own any of these, you can take them to a local store for a refund. These are being recalled all the way back from 2004 to September of this year, so if you own any of these from any of those years, you might be at risk. So please, never put any babies or young children to sleep in any of these, and if you know anyone with young children, please send them this video so they don't miss this life-saving information.
That's insane.
This will give you hope. This woman swept out to sea while at the beach was rescued after 37 hours of drifting over 50 miles in an inflatable swim ring. Overdoses have decreased for the first time in over 5 years. This stranger saved a 4-year-old from a flying puck at a hockey game. Every country has now banned the use of leaded gasoline in cars, with Algeria being the last one a couple years ago. Bruno was able to get a fresh start and a new life after 473 days in a shelter. A study of over 2 million people found that eating cheese is healthy for aging because of the lower stress that you experience in life.
The amount of sugar consumed by kids in the United Kingdom halved in 1 year after a sugar tax was introduced. Scientists have developed a glowing dye that sticks to cancer cells, which helps scientists prevent cancer from coming back. This nearly extinct pupfish has hit a 25-year high with their population. There are less than 200 of them in one single cave in the Mojave Desert of Nevada.
Here are 3 real ways to survive Ohio. The land of Ohio is a mysterious pocket dimension located within the continental United States that is widely regarded as being one of the most dangerous places known to man. With that being said, the easiest way to guarantee your survival of this state is to simply avoid visiting it altogether. This should be a relatively easy task since no one actually lives in Ohio. Remember, if you think you have family or friends to visit there, that's just the demons whispering in your ear, and those thoughts should be ignored entirely. Secondly, if you do somehow wind up in this desolate place, remember to ignore the locals at all costs. Their lonely state might inspire you to take pity on them and engage them in conversation, but be warned, if you speak to them, you will become as they are. Finally, above all else, you'll need to try and keep moving at all times in one direction. Time and space work differently in the state of Ohio, and it may feel like you've been walking in circles for hours or even days. But remember, every step that you take is a step closer to freedom. Leave a comment if you're enjoying this series, and if you know anyone from Ohio, tag them. It might help them escape.
Any of you guys know anybody from Ohio? I don't know. LeBron James, man. That's I know it comes from Ohio, but I guess this TikTok, bro, wants us to avoid it, man. And because they be Ohio, skippity Riz, Gyat, whatever, man. I think it originated there, bro. Oh, man, those TikToks, bro. Probably crazy, man, in Ohio, bro. Imagine walking down the street, somebody yelling, "Gyat skibbity," bro. Oh, man. Interesting. Where is it at? They brought like a whole setup.
Did you know that Art the Clown played the Grinch in a horror movie? Yes, there is a horror slasher version of the Grinch, and it's called The Mean One. The story follows Cindy Lou Who after the Grinch kills her parents, and she grows up and she decides that she's going to make it her life's mission to kidnap the Grinch and to kill him for what he did to her. And Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton, plays the horror version of the Grinch, the mean one, and he brings so much personality to the character even through all of the paint and prosthetics. Like, look at these cool shot comparisons. This is the original Grinch, and here we have the horror version of the Grinch. The Mean One is definitely considered a horror comedy, so keep that in mind if you choose to watch it. It's also extremely bloody and extremely silly, which I feel like you would expect. My favorite part of the movie is when Cindy Lou Who, as a child, is being interviewed by cops to try to get an idea of what this guy looks like. The sketch artist draws a little girl's description and then in all seriousness is like, "Sweetie, is this what he looked like?" It's really funny that David Howard Thornton has gotten to play a horror version of Santa as Art the Clown, and he's also gotten to be a horror version of the Grinch. Pretty cool.
Why you should always respect Mother Nature.
You should, of course, never do what this guy did in that video, and viewer discretion advised for this one because there's no happy ending here. The man in the video that I showed you is 28-year-old Jacob Cockle. Jacob's passion was surfing and pretty much anything ocean related, so he felt like the water was his element. This is likely why Jacob thought he would be able to best a whirlpool when it came to swimming by it. Initially, when Jacob jumped into the whirlpool, nothing went wrong. There were about 28 minutes of footage of him floating around on top, and this is because he had the safety of a wetsuit. Wetsuits trap a lot of air, they're very buoyant, and they're made out of neoprene. This particular whirlpool was not strong enough to take Jacob down when he's floating on the surface. However, Jacob made a grave mistake. At one point or another, Jacob decided that it would be a good idea to dive underwater to get more footage. This caused the buoyancy of his suit to drop, and the whirlpool became strong enough and sucked him down. Jacob was unfortunately not able to escape from the whirlpool's grasp.
Photos with disturbing backstories.
Stay out the water, man. Photos tell a story every single time, man. That's why I always pay attention to them, bro. That's the edit. She do that. We expert level now, bro.
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. Sometimes you laugh, talk, and cry in sleep. It's often a spirit sitting beside you in bed. You are more likely to be bitten by someone in New York than to be bitten by a shark. A human head remains conscious for 20 seconds after being decapitated. If you search up this number on Google, you'll find people with their heads in fridges. Gelatin is made out of bones. That's right. The melted marshmallow in your hot chocolate is melted animal bone. It's good stuff. You have no way of really knowing if everyone experiences reality and consciousness the same way you do. If a panda finds a fresh carcass, they'll eat it. And last but not least, your phone is likely spying on you right now as you're watching this. Yeah, there's a lot more. Like for part 8.
Cover your camera on your phone, bro. You go to sleep.
Myths you still believe about Canada. Canadians see snow year-round. Well, the truth is that though the winters can be harsh, most of the country's population experiences summers that can make a Californian sweat. Most Canadians live near the Canada-US border and thus experience similar weather to what you'd expect in places like Boston or New York. Toronto is the capital of Canada. Well, Toronto does have the largest population and is probably the most famous Canadian city, but it's actually Ottawa, another Ontario city, that's the capital. As the center of political power, Queen Victoria chose Ottawa to be Canada's capital on December 31st, 1857. It was determined that with its location being on the border between Canada East and Canada West, its excellent defensive position and its access to 2 different rivers to cross the country in either direction, Ottawa was the perfect city for the title.
Skinwalker
okay.
On camera.
The hell is that?
Please pardon the interruption. At this time, we are going to ask that students and staff proceed to conduct an internal lockdown. I repeat, this is not a drill. Please proceed to internal lockdown. 911 has been called. Remain in internal lockdown until instructed otherwise by a uniformed officer.
Okay, guys, I need everybody right away. Back corner and down, please.
In Ohio too, what the hell?
No cell phones?
Get as close to the wall as you can, crowd it together. Marcus, get this way. Get this way. Get away from the window. Davis, hurry up. Get away from the window. Press up to these desks. Hurry up. Guys, grab these desks.
Where's Skinwalker at?
Feminine things that were originally made for men. In Persia, men wore high heels to protect their feet. Then the Europeans looked and said, let's use them too, but they did it to show that they were rich, powerful, and masculine. In their culture, the higher the heel, the more masculine you were. Bags were also made exclusively for men. This is the oldest bag ever found made for men. It is entirely decorated with dog teeth because that was the fashion of the time. A system very similar to the disposable pads we have today was originally used in World War I to stop soldiers from bleeding. That's when a nurse noticed and thought, we can put put this in our underwear, and we no longer need to use rags as pads. Skirts were originally worn by men throughout the history of the world.
A killer clown.
I never knew that. Our reality's blown wide open. If you would have said high heels were made for men first, I wouldn't have believed you. We learning today.
Clown was just released from prison in Florida. This case dates back to May 26, 1990, when 40-year-old Marlene Warren opened her front door. In front of her was a clown holding balloons and a basket of flowers. Marlene stated, "How nice," before the clown fatally shot her in the mouth, then calmly walked away. Authorities suspected 26-year-old Sheila Keene for years, who was having an affair with the victim's husband, Michael. But unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence to convict her. 12 years later, Michael and Sheila wed in Las Vegas, moved to Tennessee, and started running this burger joint called the Purple Cow. They lived happily as if nothing happened, and Sheila even had the audacity to dress up as a clown one year. But in 2014, Florida authorities received a grant that allowed them to reopen the case. Advances in DNA technology allowed them to test a brown hair at the crime scene. It belonged to Sheila Keene, who was finally arrested in 2017 and pleaded not guilty. But after 7 years in jail, prosecutors gave her a deal in April of 2023. In exchange for pleading guilty to second-degree murder, she received a 12-year sentence. A Florida law allowed credit for good behavior, and that is why she was released on November 2nd of this year.
Here's a test to see if you or someone you know has thalassophobia. Thalassophobia is the fear of deep or open water. Starting off at level 1, we have this image, and if you look at the baby's feet, you can see there's nothing. And that's what freaks people out, the fact that you can't see anything but feel like there's something watching you from below. If this freaked you out, don't watch the rest, because level 2 is even worse. Level 2, we have a person falling into a huge open body of water. And to make it worse, there's some sort of squid-like creature right in the corner. And level 3, we have the worst one yet. A person floating above a huge snake-like creature that we have no idea how big it is. And if you made it this far, congrats. Make sure you send this to a friend to see if they can pass the test and hit the follow button for more.
Maps that will change the way you see the world. This map shows if your county has a McDonald's or not. If you're in a red county on this map, then you do not have a McDonald's, and there are 793 counties without them. This map shows the average weekly grocery bill across each state in the United States. Wisconsin has the lowest because Midwest states have the most farming around them. Hawaii and Alaska are the highest because of their isolation from the mainland food production. This map shows how fertility rates have decreased across the entire United States over the last 20 years. Louisiana had a tiny 0.3% decrease, while Utah had an over 30% decrease in fertility. This map shows the most common transportation methods in the United States to get to work. Most people in the United States are in a green county where it is driving alone. Orange counties are where people walk the most, yellow counties are where people take taxis or motorcycles more, and the red counties are public transportation counties, which is just San Francisco and New York City.
How y'all get to work, bro? Walk, driving, public transportation. I walk, bro. I'm a walker.
Everybody's talking about this new horror movie. It's awesome. Let's watch. I haven't watched it tonight. This movie is so scary. I promise.
This is a serial killer you haven't heard of, and has more victims than Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer combined. The Sunday morning slasher. Carl Eugene Watts targeted mostly young, attractive women walking alone in the dark. He would stab, slash, strangle, and drown them. Watts told a psychiatrist that they had evil eyes, and it wasn't enough to murder these women, he had to kill their spirits too, by burning personal items or tossing them in a sewer. His first victim was 19-year-old Gloria Steele, a mother and college student who was stabbed 33 times in her apartment. Michigan authorities knew he was responsible for dozens of murders, but they never had enough evidence to convict him. In 1982, Watts fled to Texas and resumed his murders, killing at least 12 more, including the youngest victim, 14-year-old Emily Lacroix. Now let's get to the moment he was finally caught. On May 23, 1982, Carl Watts choked Lori Lister until she was unconscious, and dragged her up the apartment steps. He used her keys to open the door and came face to face with Lori's roommate, Melinda Aguilar. Melinda was choked by Carl Watts as well, but this time she pretended to black out. He bound her hands behind her back and put her in a separate bedroom, while he filled up a bathtub where he planned to drown Lori Lister. With her hand still bound behind her back, Melinda quietly locked the bedroom door and proceeded to jump off a second-story balcony, where she yelled at a woman who was drinking coffee outside to call police. Unfortunately, Texas prosecutors offered immunity to Watts for the 13 murders he confessed to, in exchange for a 60-year sentence. Oddly enough, he was almost released from prison in 2006, but Michigan authorities were able to convict him of 2 murders before that could happen, and he died in prison in 2007 from prostate cancer.
Creepy facts that'll give you nightmares. When
justice.
anglerfish mate, the male literally fuses itself into the female and the two live together as one fish for the rest of their lives. I'm kinda concerned as to how we know this, but if you feed a human body to pigs, they eat every last bit of it. There's a place near Mexico City called the Island of the Dolls. This place is home to thousands of dolls that are there to honor a girl who drowned in the 1950s. Many people say that this place is one of the most haunted places on Earth. And finally, this is Mike the chicken. After Mike's head got chopped off, he somehow managed to live a full 1.5 years headless.
People who are 1 in a million. Part 2. This is Gary Turner, but he's better known as the Elastic Man. He has a medical condition that causes his skin to be so stretchy that he can stretch the skin from his neck over his mouth. Next is Nanya Su, who's a boy with perfect night vision. His parents both have brown eyes, but he has blue eyes that glow when a light is shined. He claims that it's hard to see during the day, but while everyone sees this at night, this is what he sees. This is Paul Carrison, the real-life Papa Smurf. To fix his skin condition, he would drink silver and rub it on his skin every day, causing him to turn irreversibly blue. Finally, this man came into the hospital with severe chest pain, and doctors were shocked when they discovered he had 2 hearts, and he had suffered a double heart attack.
This truck driver took the life of 5 people because he was distracted on TikTok. The morning of January 12, 2023, 36-year-old Danny Tyner was driving on Interstate 10 in Arizona when he drove his tractor trailer in to stop the traffic. This scene is so difficult to look at, but basically his truck sandwiched 2 other cars with another big truck at the front. These are the 5 victims that lost their lives on that day, and when Danny was asked what happened, he said that he looked down for a couple of seconds because he got a notification on his work tablet, and when he looked back up, there was not enough time to brake. But that wasn't true. When his phone was analyzed, it showed that he was actively using TikTok when the crash happened. Now, what I found disturbing was that during his interaction with police, he didn't seem too fazed. He was eventually charged with manslaughter and was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for each count of negligent homicide, which totaled to 22.5 years.
This is the track.
Man, I'm telling you guys, when you out driving, man, just do not be on your phone, man. Like I said, social media is a distraction, man. That's basically what it was made for. So why would you even attempt to even like look at it while you're driving, bro? That's just doesn't make sense to me. Look at the result of what happened, man. Multiple senses, man, because you just wanted to scroll on TikTok, man. TikTok cannot be, well, we know it's that addicting, man, where you just want to keep scrolling and scrolling, but you drive and you don't have that luxury.
Tragic story of the Boy Scout who made his entire neighborhood radioactive. Nicknamed the Nuclear Boy Scout, David Hahn was a teenager from Michigan who was obsessed with nuclear radiation. When he was only 15, David attempted to build a nuclear reactor in his backyard shed, using radioactive material from household items including vintage clocks, smoke detectors, and gun sights. Within 2 years, David had built a functioning reactor which gave off enough radiation to be detected throughout his entire neighborhood.
Damn.
David was soon caught by police when they found hazardous materials in his car during a routine stop and thought he was building an atomic bomb. When David's shed was raided by the EPA, they determined that his project had created dangerous levels of radiation, leading them to dismantle the building and classify it as hazardous waste. This mugshot from 2006 shows David covered in sores as a result of his extensive exposure to radiation. This, combined with continuous legal and mental health issues, led to David's early passing at the age of 39 from an accidental overdose.
Wanted to become like Adam Man or something.
Superpowers, Part 2. The super coffee drinker, BDNF. Carriers of this gene remain completely unaffected to the effects of caffeine from coffee, and can often easily get a night's sleep after drinking a cup. The perfect memory gene, HSAM. If you are lucky enough to be born with this gene, you will have almost a perfect memory. However, it's extremely rare with only 25 confirmed cases. The super sprinter gene, ACTN3. People with these genes are able to run extra fast, as these genetics give your muscles a higher flexing rate, which gives them more explosive power.
Speed
the
got that.
immunity gene, ALDH2. Having this super rare gene will mean you will never be able to experience being drunk with your friends, and you might have a lot of explaining to do, as it gives you total immunity from the effects of being drunk.
Imagine if everybody had that, the world would be a safer place, man. Everybody's immune to alcohol. Woo. And the speed definitely got the freaking sprinter gene, bro. Y'all know what I'm talking about. He's too fast. That's the only explanation.
This is how rare your body is compared to the rest of the world. Only 10% of people have something called Darwin's tubercle. It's this little bump on the outside of your ear. And it's said that people who have this are better at sensing voice tonality. 10% of people also have what's called Morton's toe. This is where your big toe is shorter than the toe next to it. Only 26% of people have a narrator inside their head. Most people don't hear a voice when they think. What's even more rare is only 5% of people have their tongues tied to their mouth. I thought everyone had this. Everyone flares their nostrils subconsciously, but only 30% of people can do it on command. Less than 1% of people have unbreakable bones, making you basically superhuman. Only about 35% of people can gleek, and only 1% can do it on command. And gleeking is when you squirt saliva from underneath your tongue.
Any secretary, can you guys gleek, bro? I've seen that before. I've always wanted to know what that was, man. I finally got an answer. It's called gleeking, bro. Shoot saliva through your tongue. That's a very, I guess, rare skill set. You got any gleekers, man, in the comments? Oh, that's insane, bro.
This incident has made people on the internet so upset because this woman went up to a teen and pulled down her skirt because she thought it was too short. Even if you think this skirt is too short, I think we can all agree that you cannot go up to a child and touch them. The teen said that this woman approached her from behind and basically put her hand in her area. This woman, who is a 49-year-old Ida Lorenzo, said to the girl and her friends, "I happen to work for the state, and if I have to see your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS."
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
Now, let's be real for a second. If this was a man who did this to a young girl, police would be called immediately and there would be no excuses. They were waiting at a restaurant to be seated, and she basically felt like it was inappropriate for this young girl to be dressed like this in front of everyone. Which, if you feel that way, then you can leave. You should never be putting your hands on anyone. She was eventually charged with sexual battery, which I'm glad, because you can't be putting your hands on anyone, especially kids.
People who are 1 in a million.
Explained it
This girl's name
perfectly.
is Zhang Rufang, and she is over 100 years old. But a few years ago, something strange happened. She started growing a horn on her head. At first, it started off small, but now it's grown up to 6 centimeters in length. But the craziest part is, she's actually starting to grow a second horn on the other side. And doctors have offered to remove it from her head, but she refuses. Before I show you the craziest one, I just found a way you can find your celebrity lookalike, and apparently I look like Mr. Beast. If you want to know who your celebrity lookalike is, just press this link in the comments. Next up is Nang Yasoi, and he has perfect night vision. And the strange part about this is both his parents have brown eyes, but he has blue eyes. When everyone else sees darkness, he sees perfectly in the middle of the night.
The rarest things found on Earth. This is a red diamond, and it is one of the rarest material known to man. Because of that, they are way more expensive than normal diamonds. This tiny one is worth around $25 million.
Damn.
And this is a corpse flower. It's basically a giant flower that smells like rotting flesh, and it can only be found in remote areas in Indonesia. Imagine having one of these in your garden. And this small and beautiful sea creature is a blue dragon. It's only a few inches big, but it eats deadly jellyfish every day for food.
The more you know. I want that freaking red diamond.
A Russian
You
scientist
gotta find
injected
it.
himself with this ancient bacteria to see what would happen. Dr. Anatoly Brushkov discovered bacteria deep within the permafrost of Siberia that was 3.5 million years old, and somehow it was still alive. It was named Bacillus F, and after doing some experiments on it, he realized the bacteria not only seemed to be immune to aging, but also appeared to have a life-extending effect on almost every organism it touched. He tested the strain on female mice who were able to continue reproducing into old age, much older than the average mice could, and when he exposed it to crops, they grew faster and were more frost resistant. The town of Yakut, Siberia, close to where this bacteria was found, also happens to be one of the coldest human settlements on Earth, with their population reporting longer lifespans than average humans, perhaps due to Bacillus F leaking into their water supply. Dr. Brushkov was so convinced he said "F it" and injected himself with the ancient bacterium to test it out firsthand. 2 years later, he reported dramatic improvements to his general health, claiming to need less sleep, working longer hours, and just having more energy in his day-to-day life. He also allegedly hasn't gotten sick since he injected himself with it, with him and his colleagues starting to call it the elixir of life. Dr. Brushkov did this in 2013 and claims to be in the best health of his life today. And I'm sure Big Pharma loves the idea of a miracle life potion that would potentially lose them billions of dollars a year in revenue, so we definitely should not question any articles that debunk this find. To be fair, these effects aren't exactly 100% confirmed and could very well be a placebo effect, but that sure didn't stop others from hopping on the Bacillus F bandwagon. German actress Manouche began self-medicating the bacteria and reported being able to go for longer runs, feeling less cold in the winter, and her skin just feeling softer and younger. Brushkov and his team insist the effects of Bacillus F are clear and significant, although they admit they're not yet sure why it has the effect it does. But if they can manage to isolate the gene responsible for the positive benefits of the bacteria, they may have just discovered the ultimate elixir of life. As long as there isn't, you know, a whole ass industry with infinite money that tries to stop it.
The elixir of life. I gotta believe that, man. Like I said, it could be a placebo effect, but I mean, if you can inject yourself with a million years old bacteria, you have to be pretty sure to do that. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. Go down that rabbit hole.
Toys Ever, Part 51. Mr. Bucket, released in 1990, discontinued twice and brought back. But what was the problem? Well, the shape of the mouth didn't help. But the only thing they actually changed were the words in the jingle. A certain part they decided to cut out.
I'm Mr. Bucket. I'm Mr. Bucket. Toss your balls in my top. I'm Mr. Bucket. Out of my mouth, I'm Mr.
Extinct animals, scientists are close to reviving. Firstly, the woolly mammoth. It was believed to have gone extinct 25,000 years ago, but scientists discovered hundreds that just died recently. So they're planning to put its DNA inside African elephants, and they expect to bring them back in the next 5 years. Next, dodo birds were hunted to extinction 400 years ago, but a preserved head was recently discovered. By mixing that DNA with a maned pigeon, dodo birds should be coming back in 15 years. Finally, expect to see saber-toothed tigers outside soon, because scientists discovered DNA preserved in tar pits, and they plan to combine it with African lions. So this 10-inch tooth beast should be coming back in 10 years.
That's throwing off the environment, man. They shouldn't be doing that.
Never slice tomatoes this way. So when this guy noticed that his boss was slicing tomatoes one by one, wasting a lot of time, he decided to show him a trick that everyone should know. He took a plate, put a few tomatoes on it, covered them with another plate, and in one move, he sliced more tomatoes than his boss in an hour.
This pedophile artist still has an incredibly successful career after he was convicted. Meet Nobuhiro Watsuki. So Nobuhiro is from Japan. He was born in Tokyo, and he started drawing from a very early age. Eventually, Nobuhiro began publishing his manga. He started winning awards and began making a name for himself in anime. Now, a lot of people will recognize this guy's art, his works, but his most popular work has to be Rurouni Kenshin. I totally said that wrong, I'm sure. For decades, Nobuhiro was one of the biggest manga artists and authors in all of Japan. Like I said, receiving a lot of awards. But in 2017, Japanese police raided Nobuhiro's office. And inside of his office, they found 100 DVDs. Each one of these DVDs contained CP or CSAM. And all of these videos and photos featured children in their early teens. I mean, absolutely disgusting stuff. But what did the authorities in Japan do after finding this? Was he given a long prison sentence? 100 DVDs is a lot. Nope, he was fined about $1,500. That's right, he served 0 time in jail or prison and had to pay $1,500. And then shortly afterwards, his serialization of his manga continued, basically as if nothing had ever happened. Now, I'm not really a manga anime guy, but I'm sure that a lot of people on here are, and will definitely recognize this work. And I'm sure that a lot of the people that read this stuff don't know the history of the author. And in my mind, somebody who's convicted of a crime like this should never be supported in any sort of way. Financially, artistically, it doesn't matter. This is the type of guy that should be cut off from society. But he was pretty unrepentant, obviously, a $1,500 fine. I would definitely myself encourage Japanese authorities to go check this guy's hard drives nowadays. But as for now, he's pretty much untouched.
Have you ever seen a
That's
Mickey
insane,
Mouse
man.
gas mask? These were made to calm terrified children. About a month after Pearl Harbor, Walt Disney was in Washington, D.C. to design and discuss Mickey Mouse gas masks for children. 1,000 of these were produced and given away to key members of Congress to help support the project. At the time, President Roosevelt even received one. Walt Disney also came up with drawing designs for Pluto and Three Little Pigs gas masks, although these ones never reached production. They attempted to keep the fun element in something as grim as gas raids. During these raids, children would be persuaded to regard the whole thing as a game.
That's crazy, man. A freaking Mickey Mouse gas mask? Makes you wonder, man, what other freaking, I guess, companies and stuff made things in that time. But like I said, there was only 1,000 of them, so obviously it was a limited number. That's just a dark time, man, in history. Kids had to think it was a game.
And curtain number 1 is... Correct! Wait.
That's an edit.
You don't remember what she looks like?
Call them out.
Here are the craziest things to ever happen at Walmart. So one day, an 18-year-old was craving milk. So he decided to steal not one, not two, but 26 gallons of milk from Walmart. Oh, and he did this dressed as a cow. And if that doesn't sound weird enough to you, you'd be surprised to learn that even though he made himself stand out in the cow costume, he managed to not get caught on the spot. Next, on Black Friday in 2013, a customer and his son were freaking out in Walmart because they thought that his ex-wife was possessed by a demon. And so they locked her in their car and set up an exorcism in the parking lot by throwing sacred oil at her, which might have been the reason why they ended up divorcing. Also, back in 2013, a 16-year-old was going into labor, and she gave birth in a Cannon City Walmart bathroom. Now, there was panic for a moment because the baby wasn't breathing, but luckily, one of the store's employees were CPR certified and they revived the baby. I guess Walmart really can help you live better. And finally, in 2011, at a Walmart in South Carolina, customers witnessed a man named Avery Blandon end the life of his wife, Lilia Blandon, while she was working inside the store's bank. Avery stabbed her multiple times, and she sadly passed away on the way to the hospital. He then tried to escape the scene, but he crashed his SUV and was caught by police. But what's weird is that the store stayed open during the investigation, only in Walmart.
Did you guys see this
They
video
do not
of these
care,
two planes
man.
that almost crashed into each other in midair? It was all caught by this police officer's dash cam. This all happened last month in Syracuse, New York, when a Delta airplane was cleared to take off, while at the same time an American airline airplane was cleared to land in the same runway. So the Delta airplane was on its way to LaGuardia Airport while the American airline plane was arriving from Washington Reagan Airport. What's crazy is that these two planes were only 725 feet away from each other in the air, but from the ground's point of view, they looked so much closer. At one point, the two planes were side by side, and that should not be happening for obvious reasons, which is why the job of an air traffic controller is so important. This error was completely on the air traffic controller, who shouldn't have cleared both airplanes at the same time. It's still unclear why and how this happened, but they're still investigating. Thankfully, both planes did not collide, and all 159 passengers are safe.
It's official.
That's insane to think about, man. Like, they were literally, like, that close. Like, there's, like, a hair off if something happened, man. Like she said, it was the air trafficker's job. That, they need to, whoever's there that day, they have to get their freaking job reviewed or something like that, because they obviously was not paying attention. Flights, man. One of the most scariest things, man, that can happen. Fun fact, I've never been on an airplane before yet. I've never flown yet, so that just raises my anxiety.
Aliens exist. These are the remains of
non-human creatures. They were presented to a hearing in Mexico's Congress, which is investigating unidentified anomalous phenomena. The hearing was told that the specimens were found in Peru in 2017 and apparently are 700 and 1800 years old. People online were quick to compare the likeness to that of E.T. from the movie. One user wrote, "No way, they can't be that small. Those are mutated cats." But looking at a picture that was released of their skull, this is no cat, which is eerily similar to a skull they found in 2021. What's worse is experts testified under oath that one of them is seen to have eggs inside it, and both specimens were said to have implants made of very rare metals. And even though the aliens are pretty small, you can tell that this is clearly something different. I ain't gonna lie, this guy looks like he doesn't want to go to work tomorrow. Let's take one last look. Do you believe in aliens?
Morbid facts.
Do you?
Part 402. George Lopez has a genetic condition that caused his kidneys to slowly deteriorate. So when he needed a new kidney in 2005, his wife Ann gave him one of her own. A couple years later, George reportedly cheated on his wife, then divorced her in 2010, all while wearing her kidney. The first scientist to observe penguins engaging in gay intercourse, rape, and necrophilia was so disturbed that he tried to obscure his findings to prevent people from knowing the truth about penguins. In 1995, a substitute school bus driver in Illinois stopped at a red light with the back part of the bus still on some train tracks. The children were screaming for her to move the bus forward as a train approached, but she was confused about what they meant. The train struck the bus at 60 miles per hour and 7 children were killed. In 2018, Gloria Williams pleaded guilty to posing as a nurse to abduct Kamaya Mobley from her mother's arms in the maternity ward. She was sentenced to 18 years in prison, the same length of time Kamaya was separated from her birth family.
That was not it.
4-year-old Gabby Mann was living in Seattle, Washington with her family. One day, she dropped a chicken nugget onto the ground, and before she could pick it up, a neighborhood crow swooped down and took the free lunch. And because Gabby was a messy eater, she continued to drop food everywhere she went, and so she continued to inadvertently feed these crows. She grew to really enjoy the attention, and so she started feeding them huge portions of her lunch. When Gabby's mother discovered where most of her daughter's food was going, she wasn't upset. She was just worried her daughter wasn't getting enough to eat. They would go out and buy some food just for the crows. She and her mom began feeding the crows every day. Gabby went outside one morning to refill the peanut tray when she noticed there was a small earring. Over the following few weeks, when more and more little trinkets started showing up, Gabby's mom installed a camera. She was amazed to see the crows would come in and they would eat their food, and then they would leave behind these shiny little trinkets. But the crows' most astonishing gift came the following year. Gabby's mother was an avid photographer, and one day she was out by herself photographing a bald eagle. She managed to drop a lens cover to one of her cameras. That night, when she got back to her house, she couldn't believe what was sitting there. She ran back inside and pulled up the footage from the bird camera, and there it was, a crow coming into the yard with the lens cap in its mouth. This behavior is very significant because it means the relationship between the crows and Gabby and her mom was not a transactional one. Today, Gabby and her mother still feed the crows every single day, and the crows still love Gabby and her mother.
Okay,
It's like good karma coming back to
a
you.
pharmaceutical company that's trialing a new groundbreaking age reversal pill had such good results that the local news wanted to run a story on them. But before they even could publish the video, the chairman and CEO died. You see, 6 months ago, this 12-year-old German Shepherd was near death. He had terminal cancer, was operated on, and his prognosis wasn't looking good. The dog's caretaker knew that an age reversal trial was being conducted on dogs, and so she asked if Zeus could be a part of it due to his dire situation. The pill's aim is to lengthen telomere caps on human stem cells, because as part of the aging process, our telomeres shorten, which increases the chance of age-related diseases and, of course, death.
If you can increase telomeres, you can reproduce stem cells and keep repairing things so that you can get literally younger.
They said that in their drug's preclinical data from a previous in vitro human cell study, it showed that the medication lengthened telomeres by almost 200%. Zeus was granted access to the medication in April, and his caretaker said that she saw results almost immediately.
He's doing marvelously. He goes out to our pool and he swims and he has fun and he plays with the tennis ball.
A recent scan showed that the cancer in his body had completely disappeared, and the results were so remarkable that she asked for more to give another 12-year-old dog that could hardly walk due to arthritis. And just last week, she said that he had started galloping and running again. But then,
Despite all of that, he hit us with this.
And we are sad to report that since this interview was conducted, Dr. Christopher Chapman has recently passed away.
On the company's website, they announced his passing, saying, out of respect and privacy for Dr. Chapman's family, details of the 71-year-old's passing will not be made available. And then added that to support the new chairman and CEO, 3 telomere directors have voluntarily resigned. Human trials for this drug are planned for mid-2025.
The rarest things in the world.
What do you think happened?
Akita, only 10 left in the wild. Rarest gem on earth, payknife worth $60,000 per carat. Rarest poker hand, the royal flush, one in 655,000 chance. Rarest element on earth, astatite, less than 1 gram on earth exists. Rarest car, Ferrari 250 Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo? Didn't they make a movie about that?
Okay, this is getting hard to believe, but there has just been reports of a second wave of explosions in Lebanon, but this time it's people's walkie-talkies. So yesterday, Hezbollah fighters' pagers, today, their radios. Initial reports are saying that the most recent wave of explosions have caused cars and houses to be set on fire, and there were even reports, this one's crazy, that one exploded at a funeral of someone who died from yesterday's explosions. And while I'm on the topic of explosions, you're going to see a lot of reports of people saying explosive devices found at Trump rally, even going as far as saying third assassination attempt, question mark. Let me just save you some time. That is a false report. There's going to be a lot of corrections. Don't worry about it. I'll keep you updated.
Imagine being kidnapped, locked in a basement, and then when the police come, they just leave you there to die. Back in the 1980s, many girls in Belgium were just randomly vanishing without a trace. This guy right here, Mark Detroit, was the guy who was doing all of this. Now in his early years, he had a lot of relationship issues and ended up marrying his second wife, Michelle Martin, this woman right here. What these two would do together genuinely will make you feel sick. Major trigger warning, if you're easily scared, please just keep on scrolling right now. This is your final one. On June the 7th, 1985, they took their first victim, who was an 11-year-old girl walking home from school, which they kidnapped. They took her back to their place, armed her, and then took a photo of her after this before just releasing her. Now they did this tons of times before actually being caught by the police the first time, but then it got far worse. So they were both arrested but got a very, very short sentence and were out in no time. Mark was released in 1992 after serving literally 3 years in prison for all of this. Of course, the reason they were caught the first time was because the victims they let go free had reported them, so they built this literal dungeon in the basement of the house where they would keep people. He went on to kidnap at least 6 people in the space of a couple years and left them all in here. At this time, the news was going crazy in the local area because tons of girls were going missing. No one knew where they were, but they were all in here. Now, even crazier again, Mark's own mother actually reported him to the police and they still didn't go round. And she even told the police that he literally had girls captive in the basement right now and the police did nothing. Not long after this, though, Mark was actually arrested for something completely separate, stealing a car, and he told his wife she would have to keep the girls in the basement alive by watering them and feeding them. Yeah. Now, by far, the most angering part of this whole story is that the police finally went round and did a check on the house. He literally heard children screaming and begging for help, and they walked out. They did nothing. Because apparently it sounded like the screams were coming from outside, and just kids playing prank or something. Like, what? There was even undeveloped camera film on the side here, which they just didn't develop, but if they did, they would have seen literally everything. Now, apparently, this woman was too scared to go into the basement and look after the girls, so tragically passed away. When he finally got out, he started again, and more girls started vanishing, until eventually someone came forward after spotting him in a van, basically while in the act. He then confessed, showed the police the whole basement and everything, and even showed them where some bodies of people were. He also reportedly had another accomplice, but they had a disagreement, and he unalived him and buried him in the house as well. After the whole case came to a close, she got 30 years in jail, and he got a life sentence.
This mother was found brutally murdered while her quadruplet toddlers were found covered in her blood. Sheila Bellish was a mother of 6. She had her 2 older daughters from a previous marriage with a man named Alan Blackthorne. After her divorce, she then had her 4 beautiful toddlers right here with this man named Jamie Bellish. On the evening of November 7th, 1997, Sheila was found by her oldest daughter here. After she came home from school, she saw her mother on the floor with her throat slit, and her 4 younger siblings, the quadruplets, were literally crawling all over their mother's blood. Now, when you see this family, they look perfect and happy, but Sheila's past with her ex-husband is very messy. This is Sheila's ex-husband, Alan Blackthorne, and he made her life a living nightmare. So much so that she had to move her entire family from Texas all the way to Florida just to get away from him. Alan was very rich, and a lot of people described him as obnoxious and just a shitty person, but after his divorce with Sheila, he owed her over $1 million for their divorce settlement. He was not happy about that at all, so he hired this man, Jose Luis del Toro, to take Sheila's life. Jose broke into Sheila's house where no one was there except for her and her 4 toddlers, and he watched as she interacted with her babies, and he said that at one point he wanted to leave because he felt bad, but then he ended up just going through with it and he took her life. This case is extremely devastating. These 4 toddlers were forced to grow up without their mother, and then the daughter who basically saw her mother in that state, which no child should ever have to, and then not only did they lose their mother, but they also lost their father through this process. Alan Blackthorne was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in federal prison without the possibility of parole. And the hitman, Jose Luis del Toro, he did avoid the death penalty. Instead, he was given life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The rarest photos ever taken.
Evil story.
Part 2. Photographer Herbert van der Beek captured this insanely rare moment of a jaguar diving underwater to catch its prey. Unlike domesticated cats, jaguars love the water and are known to be excellent swimmers. In 1932, Dr. Eric Solomon faked a broken arm so that he could sneak a camera in his cast to photograph the Supreme Court. It's one of only 2 existing photos of the Supreme Court in session. Here's an amazing photo of a diver at Silfra Fissure in Iceland touching both North America and Europe at the same time. This is an extremely rare view of people peeking out the balcony of the Statue of Liberty. This area has been closed to the public since 1916 due to terrorist threats. A Florida photographer captured this incredible image of an owl raising a duckling after mistaking the egg for its own. Concerned that the owl would eat the duckling once it realized the situation, a local wildlife sanctuary agreed to take care of the baby bird when they had the chance to steal it from the owl's nest.
Those are some crazy
Facts
pictures.
that can one day save your life. If your hair suddenly stands up, run for cover because you're about to be hit by lightning. If a tornado ever looks like it's not moving, run or take cover because it is actually moving towards you.
Wow.
If a service dog approaches you without its owner, follow them and do it quickly because you can save someone else's life. The more colourful the animal is, the more likely it's poisonous and you should never touch it.
Animal facts that'll make you see the world a little differently. The only reason tigers are orange is because the animals on their grocery list are Helen Kellers of the color. So if you're something like a deer, this is what the biggest cat in the world and a striped Uber to the afterlife looks like. Polar bears have black skin. The only reason they look white is because their fur is translucent and hollow. And with hollow hair, light bounces off of them and reflects enough to look like an aggressive piece of snowdrift. Flamingos are naturally pink. The color comes from the carotenoid pigments in the shrimp and algae they eat. If they didn't eat it, they'd look like an IKEA kitchen just 50 shades of bland. And if you move like Bugs Bunny and start ODing on carrots, the same thing can happen to you, but instead of pink, you turn a shade of orange. If you think an orca's eyes are here, you fall for their trap card. It's actually right there. The giant white patches are false eyes to trick any prey that tries to fight back. It's just devious. This is a black bear. Let me explain. This is a black bear with a mutation called leucism that basically turns it into a shiny Pokemon. Matter of fact, all 3 of these are black bears, and I can't even be mad. I'm black and I'm proud, but I'm black and I'm brown, at least according to Crayola. Bulls hating the color red is a myth. Mostly because bulls can't even see the color red, but chickens do, and because their instinct is to attack the color red, you're more likely to get pressed by a pack of poultry if you cosplay as the Kool-Aid Man. The more you know.
I'm telling you, the devil
The more you know.
music. Listen to this song right here. Do you hear it? Do you remember listening to this song and hearing it?
Mercy?
Bet you didn't know what it said. Watch this.
Superhuman. I think I've heard Mercy before, yeah. The secret messages in the song, man.
When are you going to understand that the devil is in the music? He promotes his dysfunction to these people who aren't following God. If you're not following God, you can be easily influenced by the devil to do what he wants to do through you. So be with the Lord, and if you stand for Jesus, type in the comments, I stand for Jesus, and share this with a friend.
This is what humans will look like
Guys
in
know
a
what to do.
thousand and a million years. And I promise you, the ending will shock the shit out of you. We will most likely be part human, part machine, having small nanobots inside of us so that we are not limited by the bodies that we're born in, and most likely even robotic features to increase your eyesight, hearing, physical strength, and agility. So a cross between a Terminator and a fucking Jedi. We will next have perfect genes. Scientists are already working on a gene editing technique called CRISPR. It sounds like a Chris company, literally allowing us to build healthier humans from birth to make sure there are no diseases or birth defects. Also, there's a chance that we'll leave death behind completely. Aye. No more! By literally scanning your brain into a computer. We are all Siri. We basically all be superheroes. Speaking of which, what superpower would you want? Let me know in the comments. But here's the kicker, 1 million years, what in the fuck are we gonna look like? Well, this is just 100,000 years. Loki, kinda like it. And then 1 million years, what the fuck are you doing? Cheers with the friends and let them know what they're gonna look like one day. Everyone with me? Elon!
I don't want to look like that, but that looks like the freaking end of the freaking Garden for Doom, that character, bro. I don't want to look like that in a million years. They trying to freaking put all this nanotechnology in our bodies and stuff, man. It's happening before our eyes. And they trying to mess with the chromosomes too, trying to make the, I guess, the perfect human. It ain't worth it, man. Don't mess with something that's not intended to be messed with. That's what I say.
Ariana Grande claims that she was attacked by a demon. Watch this.
Wow, Ariana Grande has got a real problem with demons, she told Complex magazine. Apparently, she went to a haunted cemetery called Stall Cemetery near Kansas City.
And it's actually supposedly one of the gateways to hell, supposed gateways to hell. And this is what she said happens. I felt this sick, overwhelming feeling of negativity over the whole car, and we smelled sulfur, which is the sign of a demon. Who knew? She said, "This is scary, let's leave." I rolled down the window before we left and said, "We apologize. We didn't mean to disrupt your peace." Then I took a picture, and there are 3 super distinct faces in the picture. They're faces of textbook demons. That is...
Hollywood is full of demons, but that doesn't have to be you. Subscribe for more, and check the video I pinned in the comments about how to get rid of demons.
Beware, man. Like I said, Hollywood's full of them, bro. Come all shape and sizes, man. Receivers going on right now on the side of Hollywood, so I'd stay away from that. Guess I had it. You know how to call them out.
2024 just got even crazier, part 16. Firstly, a Canadian man who was about to go on an upcoming camping trip used Google Maps to see the area that he was going to be camping. Well, while on Google Maps, the man discovered this, and experts believe that the man just discovered a very possible ancient meteor impact while on Google Maps. The fact that he found this using Google Maps is wild. Next, also in Canada, a woman who was at a barbecue started playing with these water guns with a child. Well, while playing with the water guns, she accidentally sprayed the neighbor who was cutting grass next door. Well, the man got angry and called the police, and somehow the woman was charged with assault with a weapon. Finally, a 57-year-old man was about to have burgers when the burgers were frozen together. So he got a kitchen knife to separate the burgers, but while he tried to separate them, he accidentally stabbed himself and the man unfortunately passed away. R.I.P. This is horrible.
Yo, what's up? These are the scariest facts about everyday
crazy.
life, part 1. A regular office desk contains 400 times more bacteria than a toilet does. That's disgusting. In only 1 pound of peanut butter, there can be over 150 bug fragments and over 5 rodent hairs. That means rat hairs and insects. Watching TV for more than 2 hours a day can shorten your life expectancy by 1.5 years. But if you watch it for more than 5 or 6 hours a day, you could shorten your life expectancy by 5 years. That's insane. This one scared me a little bit because I do wear a lot of rings, but under those rings can contain as many as 730 million germs. That's the size of Europe. And the fact that I wear my rings every day kind of concerns me because it could get me sick. The last one's going to be 15% of the air you breathe in just an average metro station is human skin. So you're breathing in everybody's skin around you, which is kind of terrifying.
It's bizarre too. What the hell? Man, we're rings wearers, man. Beware.
Facts is the hardest to believe. It takes sunlight 8 minutes and 20 seconds to travel from the sun to the earth. The reason why doctors flip the syringe before giving you a shot is to remove air bubbles. This is because air bubbles can block your blood, so make sure the doctor flicks the syringe. If you get anxious every time you hear a knock on the door or hear your phone ring, it is because you do not have enough serotonin in your body. A lot of people suffer from phantom vibration syndrome, which is when you feel your phone vibrating when it actually isn't. Now, if you were offered a new phone but it meant having to kiss the second person that comes up when you click share and then WhatsApp, would you take it? Research shows that most people in the world choose blue as their favorite color. Comment your favorite color. You can go to prison for cheating on an exam in Bangladesh. Of more.
Here's what would happen if the world lost oxygen for 5 seconds. Any mode of transport that isn't electric will fail. Planes will fall out of the sky and millions of cars will be stopped in their tracks. Our ears would explode due to the sudden change in air pressure as oxygen makes up 21% of the atmosphere. In just 5 seconds, the Earth would look completely different. You can say goodbye to anything made of concrete as these structures rely on oxygen as a special binding agent. If you're at the beach, then expect a severe sunburn as there would be nothing protecting us from the sun's UV rays. The Earth's crust would crumble as it is made up of 45% oxygen, sending everyone on the planet into a freefall. Comment if you think you could survive.
The way he just described, I don't think nobody could, bro. If you do, you're a damn superhero or something, man. I didn't realize, man, oxygen in real life holds everything together. The ground beneath our feet, everything. Oof.
Morbid Facts, Part 415. Found in a jungle cave in 1867, a feral boy named Dina Sanichar preferred eating raw meat, had trouble standing on 2 legs, growled like a wolf, chewed on bones to sharpen his teeth, and never learned how to speak. He eventually became the inspiration for Mowgli in the Jungle Book. In 2016, 11-year-old Nebraska girl Lulu Gilreath was going on her first carnival ride when it quickly turned into anyone's worst nightmare. Her hair got caught in the machinery of a spinning ride at a carnival, and her scalp was almost completely torn off. The horrible accident damaged both of her eyes and nearly killed her. After World War II, Japanese General Hitoshi Imamura was sentenced to 10 years in prison after failing to control his unit, which committed horrible atrocities toward Allied soldiers. Believing that his own sentence was too light compared to the men under his command, Imamura built a replica prison in his garden where he stayed for decades until his death in 1968.
Lil Uzi Vert's scary performance at Rolling Loud.
You were today years old when you found these out. If you scratch the inside of your ear with your finger, it sounds like Pac-Man. Okay, if you think about it, at any point in history, you had an ancestor living no matter what. Your car keys have traveled further than your car. I was today years old when I realized there isn't a skeleton inside of you. You are the brain, so you're inside the skeleton. It's actually proven that a midday nap can reduce your chance of a heart attack by 37%. You've never actually watched a full movie because you blink. And did you know dogs can smell cancer? Dogs are able to pick up on a specific scent that cancer produces in a person, which is undetectable to humans.
Whoa.
Darkest performances.
Okay. Did she legit do that, man? We know Hollywood, the music scene is into some weird things. But to really just be doing it in front of our eyes and people just dismissing it, that's crazy, man. How it can literally be happening in front of our eyes, but sometimes people, they dismiss it. They just, oh, it's part of the show or something like that. But no, sometimes like these artists, they know what they're doing. And they're trying to like make us try to be a part of it, man. And we the innocent ones, we don't know what's going on, but that's why you gotta pay attention, I guess, to the music you listen to and the things you watch, because there's always hidden messages. I learned that watching that together with you guys, Seekers. Weekend.
Everyone, but no one noticed it.
Every one of the major artists, bro.
We need to talk about the infamous Russian pedophile and snuff film ring. So just so I'm factually correct, here's the article I'm talking about here. So in the year 2000, a massive scandal rocked Russia. In that year, Russian authorities uncovered a pedophile ring that ran all the way from Russia to the United States. There were over 5,000 members that were busted in different countries, but the exact details of these crimes are really hard to stomach, so viewer discretion is advised. Obviously, the police and authorities had to watch some of this content that was uncovered, and what they saw was absolutely disturbing. They saw hundreds of different children being abused by groups of men, and on top of that, after the abuse was over, these children were then brutally tortured and killed on camera. Now, something extremely disturbing is that these videos made over $470 million worth of revenue. Just stop and think about that for 1 second. Just stop and think about how much money that is that people were paying to watch these videos. There were people in the US purchasing these tapes, there were people in the Middle East, people in Russia, people in Italy. And in fact, when they were covering this news story, 2 European TV stations accidentally broadcast images and video from the tapes. Graphic, uncensored material. Obviously, the whole team that was involved in that was fired. But the police officers and authorities who actually worked on this case have gone on the record and said every single night since then they still hear children screaming in their dreams. So these rings operated throughout many different countries, including Italy, Russia, all throughout the Middle East. And what the authorities think they were doing was snatching children out of orphanages, and even at times targeting kids when they walked away from their parents at the circus. Now, thankfully, hundreds of people were arrested after this was uncovered and justice was dealt. And thankfully, Russia's prison system is pretty brutal, so I'm sure that the men who were put in there for these crimes got the justice that they deserved. But this is absolutely frightening because this stuff is still happening today in 2024. It's not just happening in Europe, it's happening in America. There's so much more we could get into here. But yeah, we need to continue to talk about this stuff to raise awareness that this is happening.
I thought that the French protests were unhinged before,
It's just a
but
sad
this
story.
might be the single most hilarious way of protesting I've ever seen. As we all know, Paris is hosting the Summer Olympics, but a lot of French people aren't very happy about that. Because, and I only found out about this today, the Olympics is kind of a scam when it comes to a country actually making money. Don't get me wrong, it's great for global street cred, but, for example, when China hosted it, they made a net loss of 36.4 billion, and London made a net loss of 13 billion, and that's all taxpayer money. So when the public heard that France has already spent over 5 billion, and then that Macron wanted to spend another billion just to clean up the Seine River, so it looks good for the Olympics, they lost it, and the I shit in the Seine River protest began. On the 23rd of June, the French President Macron and the Paris mayor plan to take a ceremonial swim in the river to show off just how clean it is. So the protesters are now planning a defecation flash mob because, and I quote, after putting us in shit, it's up to them to bathe in our shit. Oh, and if you don't live in Paris, no bloody problem, because someone created this website. You type in how many kilometers you are away from Paris, and using a water flow algorithm, it will tell you precisely the day and the exact time you need to fit into the river to reach Paris at the time Macron will be swimming in it. Oh, I told you, and that is why I say, if you work the night,
That's insane, bro. Did they actually do that?
A nurse and his co-workers are working the night shift when they decide to explore a closed-out area of the ER that's believed to be haunted by the spirit of a boy who passed away in one of the rooms. As they make their way there, they find this creepy-looking doll by the work desk, but continue exploring. Now, looking for a scare, they arrive at the room that's haunted by the spirit of the boy, and this happens.
Yeah, of course we're going with you.
Some brave souls. Would you guys do that? Not me. I am exploring that. That late at night? Deuces, I'm out.
Oh! The curtain! Get
curtain? Oh, hell yeah. They said, we out. People who do that are freaking brave souls, man. Exploring those dark energies, dark passages. I don't think I'm that type of person. I ain't even want to risk it.
Another song written by the devil? Watch this. Now, if you believe the devil definitely wrote that song, better follow or subscribe.
People who
It's all in
went
the music.
missing and were found alive years later. In 2011, 2 fishermen from Kiribati were lost at sea for 33 days before they landed on the Marshall Islands. And when they arrived, locals took them to meet the only person on the island who spoke their language. Well, the fishermen then discovered that the only person who spoke the language was one of the fisherman's uncles who went missing 50 years earlier, who also got lost at sea. He was thought to be dead, but it turned out the uncle was perfectly fine and had a whole new life. Next, in 1997, a family in China had their young son abducted outside their home. And when an official search couldn't find their son, the father started his own search. So for the next 2 decades, he would travel all over China on motorbikes with flags of his son and would hand out flyers everywhere. And 24 years after he spent all of his life savings, his son was finally found. Props to that father.
Did the Olympics just create a parody of Jesus' Last Supper with drag queens? Well, that is the question being asked after last night's Olympic ceremony took place. And in a couple of the acts, some are claiming that religious imagery was used, like the golden calf, the fourth horseman, and one scene in particular is being compared to Leonardo da Vinci's mural of Jesus and his 12 disciples. In the scene, broadcast cameras pan out on a number of drag queens standing behind a raised stage, with one in the middle wearing a piece on her head that is likened to religious drawings of a halo with lines of light emanating out of it. Some outraged with this scene said this is extremely disrespectful to Christians, and that the Olympics declared loudly that the 2.4 billion Christians on Earth are not welcome. But others say that those offended are just reading too much into it. And the organizers stated that the performance was to make us aware through a humoristic and poetic song the absurdity of violence between human beings. So the question is, what do you think? Was this scene intentional or merely a coincidence?
What do you guys think, Seekers? I know the Olympics has gone and passed, but is that intentional, or they say, well, 2 people was reading into it? I need to see. I got stuff stand below on that one.
The Christian movement believed that the Christian God was evil. I am, of course, speaking about Gnosticism. Now, Gnosticism refers to a range of different ideas that emerged around the first few centuries of Christianity. Much of what we knew about Gnosticism was actually lost. Our knowledge of it mostly came from those that criticized it. Well, at least until 1945, as that is when Gnostic texts were discovered in Egypt. Now, the creation story in these texts is what's interesting. Now, I'm basically going to be presenting a very brief summary of a summary by the scholar known as David Bracken. The Gnostics believed that reality was originally just a single supreme God, so complex that our human minds wouldn't be able to comprehend it. But over time, this God started to produce other deities known as eons. He produced quite a few, and they were basically in pairs, having a male and female counterpart. Now, they all existed within this great spiritual realm, but here's where things got a little messy. One of these eons was referred to as Wisdom or Sophia, and she decided to reproduce without a male counterpart. So she reproduced asexually. And while it worked, her offspring was this deformed, twisted creature known as the demiurge. It was deformed, twisted, and evil, right? So what did the other eons do? They cast it out. It's put in isolation away from the spiritual realm. In its isolation, it decided to create its own realm, right? So it started to create its own eons and later our reality. But it convinced its creations that it was the supreme God. There was nothing beyond him, forcing its creations to worship it. But because it's so imperfect, its creations are imperfect, which is why our world is full of suffering and pain, according to the Gnostics. And according to the Gnostics, the demiurge is the God of the Old Testament. So the goal of the Gnostics, at least those that believed in this creation myth, was to realize the reality of our existence. Of course, Christians didn't really like this whole conspiracy theory about them, so that's why Gnostic texts are so rare. They were burnt, destroyed throughout history. Now, this is a very brief summary. There's a lot more to it, but perhaps I'll make more videos about it soon.
Okay. Right, there's a point of view. See, because that's it, man, for this video for you guys today. If you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support, man. Make sure you guys follow me on my social media, subscribe, hit that post notification bell. Guys, I'm gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.